Welcome to the Politics News Wolf US channel. The Ukraine-Russia war continues with full speed and violence. In line with the joint aggressive efforts of the Kremlin administration and lead of Vladimir Putin. With the continuation of the Russian attacks on civilian targets in Ukraine, the reactions and measures against the Moscow administration increased. This week, critical events took place again in the firing line of the Ukraine-Russia war. Especially in recent days, there is almost a diplomatic struggle in the war. Russia maintains its aggressive stance against sanctions and precautionary decisions against itself. The Ukrainian administration, on the other hand, demands support from the world against Moscow's brutal war policies. Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov reacted to the policy followed by the USA. Peskov noted that the administration of President Joe Biden is ignoring the new geopolitical. Evaluating the allegations that Ukrainian President Zelensky was preparing a peace plan. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, "We have heard Zelensky's statements about various steps and the peace plan. However, these were said without taking into account the facts that occur today and cannot be ignored." These statements by Peskov were evaluated as Russia's attempt to legitimize its inhuman war policies, which were not accepted by most countries in the. The response from the USA to these statements of Russia was not delayed. U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, stated that the way to bring Russia into negotiations with Ukraine is to give more support to the Ukrainian army and ensure its success on the battlefield. Blinken held a press conference at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the war agenda in Ukraine, noting that they achieved success in 4 important topics in foreign policy. Anthony Blinken said that they raised the world against Russia to support Ukraine, brought together regional and global partners against China, and formed coalitions on issues such as health, food, security, energy, and climate. Blinken stated that the USA brought its partners together and provided great assistance to Ukraine, and reiterated that NATO has never been in such a strong unity. Stating that the US will continue to provide military aid to Ukraine. Foreign Minister Blinken said the Russian war machine is in a difficult situation in all aspects. The diplomatic leadership of the USA has been indispensable in building and maintaining this unity of purpose and action. The U.S. Secretary of State stated that Russia is targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure and that they are working with common allies, especially the G7, to renew and repair Kiev's energy infrastructure. In addition, Blinken, who argued that they do not see any intention from Russia to negotiate with Ukraine and sit at the peace table. In our opinion, the best way to come to that day is to send Ukraine to be successful on the battlefield, to ensure that its energy, infrastructure, and the economy can survive Russian attacks. This is what is likely to hasten the day when President Putin will conclude that it is time for engagement and real negotiation if we were still Afghanistan. I think that would further complicate the support we can give Ukraine to withstand and survive Russian aggression. After the remarkable declarations of the US and Russia on the war, Washington took perhaps the most striking military step towards the Ukrainian-Russian war to date. Colonel Ed Mattis of the U.S. Army recently announced that American troops in the 101st Airborne Division stationed near Ukraine are ready to respond should the war with Russia reach Allied territory. This week, U.S. troops were positioned to allow their artillery to be within range of Ukraine and to provide support to the Kiev army. This proximity also allows U.S. division members to gather intelligence and monitor Russian troops around the Black Sea. According to Stars and Stripes, a U.S. military news outlet, after the U.S. troops took a strategic position in the line of fire in Ukraine. Statements about the details to be followed in this regard, which would sweep the whole world, came one after another. Also, this week in an interview in the U.S. Major General Joseph McGee, commander of the 101st Airborne Division, said, "We are ready to face anything that comes our way. And I am confident that we will fulfill any task given to us." Upon these shocking statements, the tension of the Ukraine-Russia's war continued to escalate rapidly. Critical political steps caused the huge panic atmosphere in the Moscow admins. The U.S. administration this time very assertively declared that it would respond immediately to any threat, that is, it should be prepared for possible counterattacks. The U.S. 101st Airborne Division, the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, which functions as its first operational mission in Europe since World War II, comprises approximately 5,000 soldiers on NATO's southeast flank, many of which are now in Romania. It is located at strategic points close to the coastline. The unit was ordered to anchor up these points as part of the United States' effort to provide support on NATO soil. Should the war with Russia cross Ukraine's borders after Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 20, Romania was seen as the center of U.S. efforts to prevent Russian attacks in southern Europe. With this strategic move, Ukraine's defense power is now secured by the United States. In addition, the striking statements made this week indicated that the war entered a very critical period about this move by the USA. President Joe Biden said to the Ukrainian president, followed Volodymyr Zelensky at a press conference at the White House. "The American people are with you every step of the way, and we will stay as long as necessary." Addressing the lawmakers in his speech at the Congress organized by Biden, Zelensky said, "This is an investment in global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way. I know this. Let the world see that the USA." In addition, Zelensky announced this week that the U.S. support for Ukraine is a very important step, not only to take part in such a struggle, but also to reach the turning point on the way to victory on the battlefield, responding gratefully to the support of the U.S. administration. The Ukrainian leader said, "We have artillery, but is it enough? To be honest, it's really not." Washington, on the other hand, continues to provide military and financial support to the Kiev army in this important period. The military aid provided by the U.S. aims to equip the Ukrainian soldiers with powerful weapons, equipment, and ammunition. The U.S. General Security Assistance Package announced last week includes the Surface-to-Air Missile System, MIM-104, Patriot Joint Direct Attack, munitions. The M142 High-Motion Artillery Rocket System, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, Cougar mine-resistant ambush-proof vehicles, and high-mobility missiles. It also included multipurpose wheeled combat vehicles after the US huge step of both military and diplomatic support to Ukraine, which surprised the whole world. An atmosphere of fear and desperation prevails on the Russian front. This week, Russian leader Vladimir Putin appears to be facing another diplomatic setback amid US fall and continue the invasion of neighboring Ukraine. In a statement shared yesterday, the Russian Foreign Ministry announced that Armenia, an ally of Russia, refused to participate in trilateral talks with Azerbaijan this week, as Moscow seeks to achieve a lasting peace between the two warring countries. Armenia and Azerbaijan were locked in a Russian-mediated ceasefire in their ongoing conflict over the disputed Nag-Karabakh region in the south, Caucasus southeast of Ukraine, along the Black. The Armenian government followed the slightly more aggressive stance on this issue than Baku. However, earlier this month, tensions between the two warring countries flared up again, including a series of protests linked to Azerbaijan along a common main road between Armenia and the disputed territory over what protests claimed to be illegal mining activity. This blockade on the road known as the Chen Corridor has since inspired accusations of irregular that threatened the integrity of negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, causing a new headache for Putin as he seeks to solidify his allies behind him in his ongoing conflict. While Russia's unjust occupation of Ukraine continues to disrupt the balances in the world, it is expected that the international order will be affected much more in the following period because we have entered a very serious period in the war and no one can predict what will happen. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel to update you with daily information.